Hello and welcome to Renegade Files, your connection for paranormal adventures, unsolved mysteries, and alternative cultural analysis. I'm your host, Lex Gordon, broadcasting from the Jungle Villa Outpost deep in the uncharted tropics. This is Renegade Files, episode 139, Unscripted from the Edge, UFO sightings, new cryptids, and paranormal news. For this one, we return to the periodic Unscripted from the Edge format, which we last deployed in episode 127 back in May of this year, so 3 months and 12 episodes ago. And the world of weirdness has been very busy since. The current high strangeness news cycle has been unusually active, with new UFO files released by the government, reports of passenger planes dodging unidentified objects, fresh cryptid sightings, ghostly figures caught on surveillance cameras, and new mysteries emerging from what looks like a clearly mechanical object moving on Mars. On this episode of Renegade Files, I'll give you an unfiltered report on the latest paranormal news, fringe stories, unexplained events, and unsolved craziness showing up around the world. Unbelievable stories lined up for you today, including some genuinely bizarre discoveries that remind us there are still plenty of mysteries arising every day. In this report, new discoveries, eyewitnesses, scientific speculation, paranormal claims, and conspiracy culture all collide. So join me now, and together we will leave the familiar behind and investigate the UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, anomalies, mysteries, and latest reports of high strangeness on Renegade Files episode 139, Unscripted from the Edge, UFO sightings, new cryptids, and paranormal news. Unscripted from the Edge, UFO sightings, new cryptids, and paranormal news. And you can find all the news about Renegade Files at therenegadefiles.com, your one-stop shop for merchandise, bonus episodes, the RFA agency on Patreon, and more. Just visit therenegadefiles.com to support the show, grab some Renegade Files gear, and dig deeper into the world of Renegade Files. All right. This is cool. This is going to be fun. I have all the articles and documents opened. No script, as the name implies. And we're just going to go through these in a pretty timely fashion. I have summaries of each story, so I'm not going to be fumbling around too much, but maybe a little. So the first one up, the first story is the big one, the big news, the Pentagon's 2026 UFO file dump. Now, this is from June and July of 2026, so it isn't super emergent, but I just wanted it to kind of cool off a little bit, have a time to go through the material. I may have mentioned it on a recent episode, but it seems that every time the Pentagon does this, all of the paranormal podcasts jump right on it on day one and sort of go through it. I wanted to give a little cooling off period as such and give myself a little bit of time to digest it and see what some other people who may dig deeper into the release compared to me might think. But there is some very interesting things in there. So just from my own little summary, this comes to us from, I think I know June, July 2026. The heading is UAP. They love that. Government disclosure would be the topic. So the government's new Pursue transparency releases have produced a wonderfully strange collection of very weird material, including a shimmering potato-shaped objects. It's very interesting when people apply these kinds of labels because we could easily just say oval shaped. But anyway, in there also are some red orbs seen by federal agents, There's a rotating disc over Zimbabwe, and a couple other or several other unresolved sightings. The Pentagon subsequently released additional imagery and historical files after the first burst, and RO's annual report came out, although it was delayed. But basically their contention is they haven't found any new evidence of exotic technology, even though some of the cases that are given to us through the Pursue program from the Pentagon are unresolved, at least. So the sources for this are the Associated Press, a website called The Debrief, and also direct from the horse's mouth, RO and Pentagon reporting. So I'm going to open up the main document that I have from this. This is an article by our old friend Micah Hanks, a very reputable paranormal UFO writer, fringe science reporter. And he brings us this on the debrief.org. The title, Pentagon releases new batch of UAP videos and historical files, but clarity remains elusive. And Micah Hanks wrote several articles leading up to this document dump, and initially when it came out, this is his most recent, and so therefore it has the benefit of a little bit more analysis than his original reports. So I'm not going to read it word for word. I am going to skip and give you just the highlights. So the United States Department of War, DOW, released its latest collection of imagery and other materials related to UAPs, that's UFOs for old school and normal people. The fourth official release under what they have dubbed the Presidential Unsealing and Reporting System for UAP encounters, and their acronym is Pursue. Okay, good one, guys. Keep it up with the good acronyms. The latest batch of files includes several new previously unseen U.S. military videos, and also some objects that were unidentified and acquired by RO. So here is a quote from Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell released a statement that said, and this was at the time of the document dump, we could call it, quote, "Today the Department of War is publishing the fourth release of declassified and historical unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP, files as part of the Pursue encounter program. And the collection continues to be housed at war.gov/UFO. So you can go there yourself and wade through all of that. And the department will release additional files on a rolling basis," end quote. And that, once again, is Sean Parnell from the Pentagon, their chief spokesman. As with previous releases, the new videos are not, let's just say they're not 4K resolution. They're a little grainy and leave a lot to interpretation. Mostly they're small, blurry objects that are captured with multi-sensor electro-optical targeting equipment. So it isn't like a movie film camera of something in the sky. It's technical equipment on fighter aircraft for the most part that get these anomalous returns, and then we get to see them and analyze them. And the reason that they're even in there at all is because, at least according to the Pentagon, they lump them into this category of, we don't know what that is. Now, I've had a chat about that before on the podcast. I've got a little bit of an opinion personally about it, which is, if they really didn't know, would they really show us? That's sort of maybe where I land on that. The other thing is, there is an argument to be made, which I had mentioned chat with a friend of mine before, which was that it is possible that they absolutely don't know, and so they want the maybe other people in the world, other countries, to believe that we do, or that it is ours. I don't know. We're not going to rehash all of those opinions, but it always gets brought up when we're talking about these kinds of big government disclosure. You start to, at least if you're like me and you've dug into this a few times, you start to step back a little bit and look at the bigger picture, the fascination of analyzing these images that get released. A lot of them kind of look the same. We've seen some dramatic ones, the big ones, but it just seems that, the releases to me are almost more about the political theater at this point than what's actually in the release, short of little green men walking across the White House lawn type thing. That's what we all sort of are waiting for. A deeper look into the latest files tells us that there's a series of historical NASA images included. That was sort of a bone of contention with a lot of people. It was almost like padding your college term paper with a bunch of fluff. They're like, oh, here's a million missions and here's a bunch of stuff we don't know, and then they throw in some old NASA images that we have all already seen. One of them, though, that's interesting is from the 1996 STS-80 space shuttle mission. And maybe those photographs aren't new, but if you've never seen them, they're interesting. And there's also some video. And I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but it's pretty cool. There's one video in particular where there's a bunch of like tiny objects that are moving in erratic ways, and that's in this document dump as well. And the sort of official story has always been that those are ice crystals that have been caused by some apparatus and process of the space shuttle moving through the vacuum of space. And either way, whether they are or whether they're not, they certainly move in unusual ways. It's not like they're just drifting and spinning or whatever, but then I don't know how ice crystals behind a space shuttle behave in space. Anyway, so that was part of what was in there. Some of the other things that are in there, there's a really cool still from a video, and I think the video too, if I recall, I saw it. It's an object that's part of those releases, and it looks like they say what it is that it's consistent with a balloon cluster of similar inflatable objects, but it doesn't really look like that. It's got structure and shape, and it's extremely unusual. The best way that I could describe it is it almost looks like, imagine if you had some technical automotive part that you didn't know what was, and it was detached from all of its connections. It's got that kind of striated sort of mechanical look to it. I did see an AI kind of like polished rendering of what it might look like if it was in focus, which it is not. But and that looked like a really cool, I don't know, like a machine, like a drone without wings and a bunch of little apparatus sort of gizmos on it. I'm not sure. That's a really cool photograph, though. I will put it in the Dark Intel files, and you can check it out. And if I can find the AI sort of polishing of it, or almost like a rendering of what it might actually look like, then I'll put that in there too, and we can have a chat about that on the Patreon Dark Intel files at the RFA agency. Join it and say hi in there. So anyway, that's one of the most interesting things. I will skip down to the end here because Micah Hanks does a pretty good job of summing this up. He says in his last paragraph, clarity remains elusive, but more releases to follow. And this is just a quote from him in the article. To date, none of the videos or other documentation made available provides clear examples of any objects attributable to unknown aircraft or exhibiting unusual or advanced technologies. In his statement on Friday, Parnell, that's the aforementioned spokesperson, said the DOW and its agency partners are actively working on the next release of UAP files, which can be expected to appear in the DOW website in the coming weeks. In the meantime, all of the existing 4 releases of UAP imagery and documentation can be found on the DOW's Pursue page. So, as I said, go check it out. I'll put a link to that also in the Dark Intel files, of course, and as well as this original article. But and it's just weird. Why do they have to constantly rename stuff? Can't we just call it the Department of Defense? Do we have to call it the Department of War? Is war really so fun that we I don't know. That's a personal thing, and I really don't have a lot of skin in the game. But I do think it's unnecessary when bureaucracies continually give things new names for no other reason other than busy work and to justify their salaries or what have you. So anyway, Department of Defense. I think that actually sounds kind of cooler. I don't know. That's a whole another episode. So anyway, that would be our story number one. Just kind of a glance into, since they're putting it in the news, right? So that makes it news. It's not necessarily that there's anything groundbreaking and new in there. Although I will say, if you do take the time to go through it, and I'll put some of the big hits in the Dark Intel files for you. You can check it out. But there's some interesting stuff in there, and just by virtue of the fact that it's unexplained, kind of makes it fun. This brings us to story number 2. So let me jump around here. This is kind of a cool one, I thought, for sure. This is from June 2026, and the article is, let me see here. There's a few sources of this. One of the main articles is from The Guardian, and the Guardian headline on this subject is Alien Hunters Update Guidance on Sharing News of Possible Intelligent Life. And this is by Guardian writer Nicola Davis, a science correspondent on the 5th of June, 2026. So my little abstract of this is that the topics it hits are aliens, SETI, that's a search for extraterrestrial intelligence, of course, and first contact. The International Academy of Astronautics released updated post-detection guidelines governing what researchers should do if a credible extraterrestrial signal is detected. This has been sort of a hotly debated topic over the years, whether or not we should respond at all. And we've done some, I would say, reckless things in the past in this regard, beaming out our location and putting our DNA in a signal that we sent into deep space just for the fun of it, and some risky, unprotected SETI research, I would call it. But anyway, the guidelines emphasize, the new guidelines rather, and I would say that this is a good thing. I don't know, maybe it isn't, but you can be the judge. The guidelines emphasize verification, transparency, and managing the social media explosion that would follow a possible discovery, while the broader protocol tradition maintains that humanity should not casually fire back a reply before international consultation. So, all right, there's a few things that are a little shaky going on in there. Number one, I would agree that humanity shouldn't casually fire back a reply if we receive a signal that we're positive is intelligent life outside of Earth. I'm not totally paranoid and terrified of any life outside of planet Earth, but it just seems a little bit hasty to just say, hey, here we are, gigantic planet full of fresh water and a bunch of meat. I don't know. The other thing is, their conclusion, though, is before international consultation, which that's just essentially bureaucracy. So where does that lead us? I'm really not sure. And how do we appoint the people that make those decisions when it's the entire planet? It's a global question. It really is, if there is one. And the other thing that's sketchy about this is that they specifically say that the guidelines emphasize, among other things, like verification and transparency. Okay, fine. But then a third thing that they say is the guidelines emphasize managing the social media explosion that would follow a possible discovery or a genuine discovery. Now, there's a few things going on there. Number one, to me, that sounds a lot like censorship, because how do you manage the social media explosion of a genuine, verified, bona fide, credible extraterrestrial signal discovery? The end, period. How would you police that? What would you do? The other thing is that I think there may be that the guys at SETI and the people that drafted these new guidelines, the International Academy of Astronautics, they maybe are sort of, maybe their hopes are a little too high that anyone's going to believe a thing that they say. I'm not sure. In the days and age that we're in of AI and fakery and fake news and just a long litany of things that the most honest, genuine researcher has to dig through mountains of information to find credible data, that just because those guys say it, is there really going to be a social media explosion beyond a bunch of memes making fun of them? I don't know. I guess we'll find out together. I guess, and then ultimately, the important thing is at least they're thinking about these things. Where in the past, it just seems like they were just firing signals willy-nilly, and I don't know if you can ever get that back, and if it matters at this point, if we're judicious moving forward. But as I said, at least they're thinking about it. And so that's sort of my personal take on it. I will go through a little bit of the language in the article just to give you the official side of it all. Experts stress need for transparency while aiming to prevent premature announcements and protect scientists, I guess, from their reputation being damaged. Eventually, someone's going to find something, said Professor Michael Garrett. Well, that's a cool quote. Yeah, you want that on your tombstone, right? Alien hunters have released fresh guidelines and etc. And of course, they always have to throw this in. This is the classic paragraph. While the idea of little green men may be a thing of the past, the possibility of intelligent civilizations elsewhere in the universe remains a serious topic among astronomers. Why can't they be green? Right? They're so racist against the green aliens all of a sudden. Green lives matter. All right? I don't want to hear it, Guardian. Experts say they hope that the new guidance will prevent premature announcements and provide a framework for confirming and communicating such discoveries. All right, that's fair enough. And I will just give you one quote from Michael Garrett, a deeper quote than the one I kind of made fun of him about just a second ago. He's the director of Jordell Bank Center for Astrophysics, and he's the chair of the International Academy for Astronautics. And he says, quote, I think we hope to avoid researchers crying alien prematurely, and yet to let the public know we want to be as transparent and open as we can be. And that's cool. That's a scientific sentiment that you would like. Let me just scroll through here real quick and see if there's anything else. So they do give a list of the... Wow, that's cool. I was able to open up the actual document. Let me see, how long is this? The document of their... What is it called? Position paper on Declaration of Principles Concerning the Conduct of the Search for Extraterrestrial Life. This is from the International Academy of Astronautics, and boom, right there. They're in Paris, France. And in the interest of transparency, this is their entire document. I'm not going to read it all, but it does have the principles. Let's see, how many are there? Well, let's go through them, a few. One, handling candidate evidence, so that's sort of the aforementioned making sure it's valid before they cry wolf. Number two, communicating and sharing information. And they do say that there's no obligation to disclose verification efforts until a discovery is confirmed. If a candidate techno signature is discovered, communication about ongoing observation and analysis may be necessary to dispel rumors and provide accurate and reliable information. That's just a nice, sober approach to it, I would say. Similarly, if analysis determines that a previously reported candidate technosignature is not extraterrestrial, this should be promptly disclosed and clearly communicated. So if they do make a mistake, speculative or unconfirmed statements should clearly be identified as such. And, this is just sort of they're doing their due diligence. Number three in their principles would be communicating verification. So that's like showing their work, explaining how they arrived at the conclusion. Number four, monitor, archive, and data accessibility. So that's the transparency part. We appreciate that. Number five, data and frequency protection. I guess utilizing the best scientific practices to make things tamper-proof, in other words, so that, I don't know, hackers can't simulate a signal. That's kind of cool that they thought of that. Number six, post-detection protocol. This might be our social media piece. Post-detection subcommittee. This is it. All right. So the IAA will support and assist the post-detection subcommittee with engagements with social media platforms and news organizations to responsibly and effectively aid in the discussion of accurate and reliable information. So, okay, maybe I was wrong before. That sounds a little bit more of like a proactive approach of them putting stuff out there to sort of keep it under control rather than curtailing what the people say. But then again, how would we ever really know what's going on for sure? But at least they have some bureaucracy layer in there for that. The post-detection subcommittee, which is always effective sounding. I have a Renegade Files Join the Patreon subcommittee. It's made up of me. And so come on in there and join. I'll make you an honorary member, and we can have a meeting about when we're going to have the next meeting. So anyway, that leads us to number 7, communication with extraterrestrial intelligence following a confirmed detection. Practitioners should cooperate with appropriate international consultations to consider whether a response to a confirmed detection of extraterrestrial intelligence should be made, and if so, its contents. So I guess, I don't know, just sort of setting up a process, if that could be said. These consultations should be conducted through, guess who? The United Nations, of course. We're in good hands, so no fear. That's a bastion of effectiveness right there. So we can be assured that they will handle this with professionalism like they do. Leading us to number 8, ethical and legal considerations. Of course, it's obligatory that the highest ethical standards ensure cooperation, honesty, etc., comply with the law. And then they go on to say this declaration replaces the previous one, so this is the new school stuff. And there's 8 principles, and they all sound, pretty good. I give them credit for, proactively at least trying to get a handle on how would we address that, and what do you think should be the right thing? Like radio silence, maybe. Reaching out, I guess it also would depend, wouldn't it, on what the signal is. Is it just a series of beeps that indicate like 40 prime numbers in a row, and then that's how we know it's intelligent, and it's just like, hi, intelligence here? Or is it some kind of message that we can decode and that actually says something? And I guess it would matter what it said. Well, hopefully, like, we come in peace. All right, so that was fun. There was more in that than I realized, and it's actually pretty cool to dig through it. And that, once again, is scientists rewrite the rules for what happens if we actually hear from aliens, from SETI and the Guardian's interpretation of the International Academy of Astronautics and their position on that idea. Really cool, really cool. This brings us to case number 3. And so we come right back down to earth to the nitty gritty weird stuff with case number 3. Connecticut gets a new Class A Bigfoot sighting. So this is also from July 2026, the category of Bigfoot and Cryptids. A Rhode Island man driving through Voluntown, Connecticut, reported seeing an enormous hair-covered creature cross the road in roughly 2 strides, estimating it to be 8 to 8.5 feet tall. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, that's BFRO for the people in the know, investigated the report, and they classified it as a Class A sighting. Its category for reports where misidentification is considered very unlikely, while local officials reacted with considerably more amusement. So let's jump into that, see if there's any more detail in there. That's just my abstract. Let's see. Straight to us from the Connecticut Insider, which is replete with pop-ups. I'm not sure. It does have a reader view, but what the new school reader view stuff has pop-ups too. All right, here we go. Here's the article. This is from Jesse Leavenworth, a staff writer for the Connecticut Insider, and his headline is, Rhode Island man's Bigfoot sighting amuses Connecticut officials and interests researchers. I don't think that would put it in a very exclusive category, that situation, but that's okay. There's a few photos here. There's a map of the area. So this is right where I'm not at all familiar with the area. I'm just going by the map, but a road called Forge Hill Road, which kind of curves around, and then it comes to a very wide V, and to the right, which I believe would be the east, is North Shore Road, and to the left, a road called Wiley School Road. And both of those sort of go parallel along what looks to be a pretty big river, the Pacuag River, Pachuag. So right away, it's pretty rural. It's pretty in a wooded area. It looks like it's at a crossroads where 3 sort of fork in the road of 3 different roads come together. And it's along a river, which sounds like Bigfoot territory to me. It's just to the west of the Connecticut state line, so just into Connecticut, outside of the town of Voluntown, which is north of a town called Glasgow, and it looks pretty wooded to me for sure. There is a photograph of a footprint in the article, but I think that's just a generic footprint photograph. I don't think it's actually anything that was taken on this case. This happened on July 5th. The man was from Rhode Island, driving through Connecticut, said he saw a Sasquatch cross a country road in just 2 steps, moving like it was on a mission, is the quote, according to the man's account posted on the BFRO website. The 8 to 8.5 foot tall creature had coarse, matted, greasy looking, long brown hair covering every part of its body, a jawline any pugilist would kill for. It's very colorful. Kevin Kilmus of Westerly, Rhode Island, that's the man, reported all of this according to the Bigfoot Research Organization. The regional animal control officer and spokesman for Connecticut State Police and the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection said Tuesday that they had received no other reports of a giant bipedal creature in the region or state. However, Voluntown First Selectman Brian Musciano responded to a reporter's inquiry relayed to him by an amused-sounding town hall staffer and joked that a male Bigfoot was spotted here last week paying taxes. So they're just kind of like, taking the opportunity to joke about it in town hall, right? City hall or whatever it is. So anyway, that's very funny. I guess Bigfoot also has to pay taxes. Maybe that's why we're just not even going there. Okay. We're just gonna stick to the cryptid side of this. We're not gonna make Bigfoot political. Jeez Louise. Anyway, so it is kind of cool. It does seem to be at least an impassioned statement from a I don't know. It doesn't seem like the guy's a total crackpot. We don't know a whole lot about him, and there's not a lot of information there other than it is always cool when someone spots what is a classic Bigfoot and reports it to BFRO, and at least in their eyes it's credible. They may have more information than we have in this article from the Connecticut Insider. So, I don't know. A short, sweet story. Nothing major there. It's just always fun when we come across these. So, go Bigfoot. This leads us to number 4. We're going to stay in the cryptid realm for a few of these stories. These are always fun. So this is America's Loch Ness Monster. Apparently they caught a picture of Champy. So if you recall when I did the Cryptids of the Sea or Waterbound Cryptids or whatever, one of the cryptid episodes, we talked about Lake Champlain and the sort of Nessie type of monster, sort of a sea monster, but in a lake, so lake monster, that's been seen there over the years. And there's an incredible photograph, one of them, I have it in the article and I'll mention it, and I probably mentioned it in that episode too, but it's just one of those classic lake, like sort of waterbound cryptid things. It looks like a hump and a long neck and a head that's turning to the side. And if it's not that type of sea beast, let's just call it, then I have no idea what it might be. It could be like the tail of some kind of other creature on its side. Could be a few things, but whatever it is, it looks absolutely organic and it looks real. And it was from pre-AI. It was in the 70s, I believe. So even before Photoshop. So anyway, not that they couldn't manipulate photographs back then, but I don't think that's what's going on there. It's been examined and it seems like a legit photograph of what, we're not sure, but what it does look like is a Loch Ness Monster type creature. And of course that's in Lake Champlain, and that's in I guess New England. Anyway, there's a few reports. So I think a different one. So there was one in June, and then again later that month, where more than one person saw apparently this creature. One of them was a filmmaker, and I think he was actually there making a film about Champy, the Lake Champlain waterbound cryptid, which is a little bit sus, but not terribly so. What he was doing is he was cruising around in a boat on the lake, and he had a drone up that was filming him and his crew in the boat. and for like B-roll or whatever. And in the drone footage, you see something like come to the surface and cruise across, and it's not necessarily following the boat, but a little bit. And it's I don't know how far it looks to be, about at the most like 40 yards behind the boat. I would say 40, 30, 30 to 50 yards. It's because I'm not sure how big the boat is, so it's hard to guess, but let's just say 30 yards behind him, and it looks to be kind of an orangey brown color, and it's really big, and it looks to be moving and making a little wake, and I'm not sure. It's really weird. It's like the old school lake monster rearing its head again all of a sudden. It's funny because it's a type of a version of cryptid that kind of really falls out of favor and goes away for a long time, and then all of a sudden people are talking about them again. I am going to jump directly to that actual article, and let me see, because I want to mention the original photograph here. Man, the pop-ups. Let's see. Filmmakers claim they've caught America's Loch Ness Monster on video, and the quote from the man is, "My eyes were popping out." Two filmmakers unexpectedly filmed stunning footage of a mysterious creature known as America's Loch Ness Monster. Richard Rossi and Kelly Tabor filmed a children's movie based on Champ. Okay, so that's kind of cool. The mythical serpent-like beast that for decades has been rumored to lurk in the 125-mile-long Lake Champlain, which straddles upstate New York, Vermont, and parts of Quebec. So that's a very big lake, a lot going on there. I think it's pretty deep too, if memory serves me correctly. But it was only when they were editing parts of their footage, this would have been 2 years later after they filmed it. I guess it takes a long time to make a children's movie about a Loch Ness Monster, but they saw something swimming behind their small boat, which they are convinced is proof that Champ is real. And then the quote is, "When I saw it, I saw like a skinny neck and the body got larger." And this was Tabor speaking to the Daily Mail, a British newspaper, and a paragon of accurate reporting and a lack of sensationalism. The Daily Mail. So there's a screenshot in this article, and it is pretty cool, and it does look like a big giant thing. And then we do have what I wanted to come to is the Champ, a photograph that is so cool. And this was captured in a photograph in 1977 by a woman named Sandra Mansi, M-A-N-S-I. And I believe she took this photograph from her boat. Her and her husband, I think, were out on the lake in the boat, and they saw this thing. It's pushing off wakes, and it looks like exactly what you would think, the classic Loch Ness Monster type creature. You can find it online, and of course in the Dark Intel files I'll put a picture of it up too, because I just love it. It's as good as that kind of thing gets. And it's interesting that lately, or all of a sudden, even though some of that footage is not brand new, but the discovery is kind of brand new, and more than one person has seen the Lake Champlain monster lately. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever seen anything in the water? You know, I always say like the ocean is so fascinating. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who was telling me about a documentary he watched about sperm whales who dive as deep as 2,000 feet deep to chase squid. And they eat hundreds of pounds a day. And that when they sleep vertically. Did you know that? I don't know if they always do, but I think that's part of their affectation. They'll gather in a group, and in a circle they'll sleep vertically. Sperm whales. You never know what whales are up to. So this brings us to number 5, which is sort of a 4.5, but we'll call it 5. Tuscany, this is in Italy, has acquired, and this is a short one, I just had to put it in, you'll see why. Tuscany in Italy has acquired its own Loch Ness Monster. Except this one might be a crocodile. Womp, womp, womp. So this was from May to July, and I just wanted to put it in here because it's kind of fun. May to July 2026, under the category of Fortean Discovery and Mystery Animal / Cryptid, a maintenance worker photographed what appears to be a crocodile lurking in a pond near Massiano, Tuscany. And I guess the deal is they don't really have crocodiles there, so that's why this is an issue. Setting off an actual search involving authorities, drones, traps, and even a crocodile specialist. No crocodile has subsequently been captured, leaving residents divided between identifying it as or believing that it is an escaped exotic animal, an elaborate hoax, or an actual local monster. So this is the cool part. The local village has given it a name, the Croc Ness Monster. Boom. That's just classic. So just because they called it the Croc Ness Monster, that's why I decided to put that short story in here. We're not sure what it is. It's either a crocodile or it's a fake crocodile. No, I don't know. So remember that you can get all things Renegade Files at therenegadefiles.com, your one-stop shop for merchandise, the RFA agency on Patreon, where you can get bonus episodes and more. So just visit therenegadefiles.com and you can find everything there. I would like to encourage you, if you've ever thought about it, check out our store. We have a shop link there. It's free to look, and we have some cool stuff in there I think you really like. The prices are made so that they're fun to buy, and the shipping is as low as it can possibly be. So go in there, check it out. We have a cool poster, pint glasses, great t-shirts, and the hats are just nice, embroidered hats. So go grab some Renegade Files merchandise and represent the paranormal on the street. All right. So this brings us to number 6 in our Unscripted from the Edge episode. This is a little heavy, okay? A new physics paper links vanishing stars, nuclear tests, unidentified flying object reports, and dark matter. So this is a new physics paper that brings a lot together. I'm going to, first of all, go through the article because it's pretty techy, and then I'm going to come back and give you my summary of it and just see where we land there. This is from arxiv.org, arxiv.org, a physics website deep in the backwaters of the darkest corners of the internet. And the article headline is Mysterious Transients in the Palomar Observatory Sky Survey, POSS-1, as profound manifestation of the dark matter physics. So boy, that just rolls off the tongue. It's by Ariel Zithinsky, and here is the text of the article. It's not that long, or the abstract rather. Transient star-like objects of unknown origin have been identified in the first Palomar Observatory Sky Survey as part of the Vanishing and Appearing Sources during a Century of Observations project. The source of the transients recorded remains unknown, which is the warrant to coin the observed phenomenon as mysterious transits, or what they call, or transients, MTs. We advocate an idea that the dark matter in form of the axiom quark nuggets, AQNs, made of standard modal quarks or antiquarks and gluons, similar to the old idea of the Witten's stranglets, could simultaneously explain the observed MT signals, including very short timescale for flash itself, association with nuclear test timing, observed alignments of several MT events, correlation with UAP reports collected or recorded for many years. Essentially, we argue that the MT is a cousin of ball lightning events also observed for centuries without commonly accepted physics explanations. The basic parameters of this model, such as the typical baryon charge of the nuggets, had been fixed long ago by explaining the observed excess of radiation at a variety of scales, from galactic to solar to local Earth environments. It's almost over. In this work, we use the same framework with the same set of parameters to study the observed MT phenomena. We also suggest several tests and, suggest a type of instrument required to study this specific and well-defined type of UAP event, representing the cousins of BL, that's ball lightning, and MT, mysterious transits, events in the AQN, axion quark nugget framework. Got it? Cool. All right. So basically, this is a new theoretical paper, and it examines these mysterious transient points of light that have been recorded on old Palomar Observatory photographic plates. And it proposes that these axion quark nuggets, there's a hypothetical form of dark matter, could potentially explain these transients. So in the same way that ball lightning and correlations to researchers have noted that with nuclear test timing and historical US UAP reports, so that's UFO reports, kind of lines up with the same, at least in some cases, explanation, or the timing of it explains it. This is a speculative theoretical proposal. It's definitely not an established discovery, but it is scientific speculation, and it makes it almost like perfect, because what it's doing is it's taking old data and applying new discoveries and then bridging the two. It's actually kind of cool. I think that, and just as a, believe me, I'm not a physicist, but I do have some serious issues with the idea of dark matter. And this is just my rant, and this is the short summary of the reason I have a problem with dark matter. When physicists analyze the universe, we all know that big things don't appear like little things, and that's the whole quantum sort of issue that Einstein had a problem with. But more than that, or in addition to that, when they observe the known universe and they see that there's a correlation between matter and energy. Energy equals matter times the speed of light squared. That's Einstein's E equals mc squared classic equation. But here's the catch. When physicists look at the observable universe and the amount of energy that is in it, there is, if the equation is true, if E equals mc squared, there is by far, by orders of magnitude, not enough matter in the universe to account for the amount of energy that they can measure. Where is all the matter? How do we have this? If energy equals matter times the speed of light squared, when we measure how much energy we can calculate, it's way miles beyond how much matter we can measure and find and see. And so what physicists have done is, in order to make the equation work, they came up with this idea called dark matter. And they just put that into the equation to get the math to work, so that the amount of matter in the universe plus or times, or however the equation works, the amount of dark matter that it takes to multiply to equal the amount of energy that should be there. Got that? That's a little suspect. That's just making up something and sticking it in there to make your equation work. And we've based lifetimes of physics on this idea of just filling in a gap with something we don't know, we can't explain, so we just make something up, put it in there to make the math work. Now, we've performed physics that seem to work out okay. We go into space with these equations, we do other things, and so far so good. But personally, I have a problem deep down when scientists just make something up to make a previous idea hold water. That's all I'm saying. I'm not an expert, and I'm not a physicist, but thus ends the rant on my personal opinion of dark matter. Okay, so that's a pretty cool article. It's a fringe thing, yes, I know, and it's a cool paper. It's not exactly riveting reading, but it is kind of neat when we realize that something that we sort of missed earlier, dark matter aside, that there are hypothetical sort of modern physics that can explain old problems, and that would be a case of that. Riveting as it may be, but the vanishing stars problem may be a theoretical idea for what's going on there. Okay, cool. That probably won't be listed in the podcast platform's most replayed section of this episode. All right, doubtful. Okay, cool. So this brings us to, what number are we on here? 7. This would be number 7, the Medellin Park Garage Ghost. We're going way back off topic here into some weirdness. So out of the high science and into the ghosts in a parking garage. Hell yeah. So anyway, this thing apparently vanishes, and they've caught it more than once. This was on August 2026 under the category of ghost, apparition, and closed circuit TV. Security guards at an apartment complex in Medellin, Colombia, reportedly noticed a nearly transparent human-like figure walking briskly through a parking area on surveillance footage. The figure passes behind a concrete column, appears to emerge carrying something resembling a broom, continues walking, and reportedly seems to disappear. The footage remains unverified, okay, because how would you? But it's perfectly an acceptable story for this sort of reporting because it was originally reported on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, also on iHeartRadio, and it was originally the original footage is what they have and what they've circulated. So I was able to find the original Coast to Coast, or the original video rather, through the Coast to Coast article, and I don't think they had it on the iHeart post if I recall. But anyway, this is Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, their website. George Norrie taking over the reins from the late great Art Bell. Art Bell is a legend. So this was from August 13, 2026, and the text of the article basically, explains what I just went over, and I was able to get the closed circuit TV video that they have here to play. And then once I got it to play once, it just kind of glitches out and it doesn't play again. It just goes doot doot. Oh wait, no, here, I got it one more time. Yeah, man, I watched this a couple times and it really is weird. It's that sort of blue-gray looking film footage, and the guy is walking in a very odd way, almost like that, like stomping, and it seems to be like he's pretty tall, and he comes from the left of frame. His head's almost cut off. He walks in front of these parking bumps, like those concrete curbs at the ends of each parking place in a garage like that, and you can see them through him, so it definitely looks transparent. And he goes behind a pretty big concrete column. I'd say that you can't see him for 2 steps, but he doesn't seem to like stop because he passes beyond it in the time that you would imagine. And when he comes out, he has like a long stick in his hand, which is odd because he doesn't have that before. It just sort of appears in his hand, and then he keeps walking, and before he goes out of frame, he just sort of vanishes. And it's really weird looking, and it looks humanoid. It looks like a person. It looks like a male, if I had to guess, but it's so transparent, and the way he's walking is just a little unnatural. It doesn't look like a robot or anything, but it's just this sort of odd stomping type of a walk, and that's sort of what it looks like. It's really cool. I'll put the link on it in the Dark Intel files, of course. I'm going to stop saying that. All this stuff will be in there. But here's the thing. A few things are going on here. This is, first of all, security guard footage or security camera footage from an apartment in Medellin, Colombia. There's this situation where these types of security cameras, some of them are on all the time, some of them have motion capture or motion activation, and some of them have infrared, so it's probably dark in there at night, and this gives you that grainy, kind of grayish, almost looks like the Paranormal Activity movie type of baby cam footage. I've read some things about that type of closed circuit TV footage, and what can happen is almost a sort of inadvertent double exposure, so that when something could happen where, let's say that a guy, let's say he's a janitor, and he just happens to kind of walk funny, and he's walking through the parking garage, and on the back side of that column there's a broom leaning, and he walks by and grabs a broom as he goes behind the thing, so he doesn't have it, and then he goes behind the column, he comes out, he has the broom, and then he walks on and goes about his business out of the frame. And that it could have been a perfectly harmless capture on the video of a person in real time that you can't see through, going and walking about his business and grabbing a broom and continuing on. Because it does look like a real person. It doesn't look like any kind of rendering or drawing, but like I say all the time, who can say now? But then what can happen with these sort of closed circuit TV cameras and systems like that is that there could be some glitch. Like, let's just say like the power goes out, a power spike for a second, and causes the camera to glitch out and then reset. And in that time, it could, for whatever reason, restart. Like, let's say the power goes out for like 40 seconds, And then when the camera restarts, it restarts again where it left off at that 40-second time. But that, like, the battery backup allowed it to record while the power was out, but then it records over that section again. And so now what you get is this, like I described earlier, an inadvertent double exposure, which is the way they used to fake ghost photographs back in the Victorian era. You take a picture of a woman in a white dress, and then you don't develop the thing. You put that slide back in the camera, you take another picture of a stairway, and then when you develop it, it looks like a ghostly looking woman is on the stairs. So that's like the old double exposure trick photography ghost image that they were so fond of creating in the Victorian era. So that sort of thing can happen by accident or by technical glitch with a security camera also, if it retapes over something that it's partially already recorded. And the other situation is, this is a fixed CCTV camera that doesn't move, and you don't move it around, so it's constantly filming the same exact light and dark and shadow and area and structure of the same exact area of a parking garage, and that can become burned on like the lens or the plate or the screen or whatever, just like your computer screen. If you didn't have a screensaver and you left a document up there, that a ghosted image of that can be burned on. So that could be burned into the plate when this double exposure happens and make a very convincing image of something that looks like someone you can see through walking by. Now, I'm not saying that's what this is. I'm not defending this as a ghost either. I'm just kind of trying to be real and keep it real like we always do here on Renegade Files, and just trying to give you, at least what I think and feel in my heart. Although I will say it is on Coast to Coast AM, which is pretty reputable as far as weird stuff goes. And you can go and check out the video for yourself if you can get it to play. I was able to get it to play sometimes I couldn't. That could be for a myriad of reasons. But when you see it, it's creepy. Don't get me wrong, it's creepy. And if it's real, then who knows? And if it's a glitch in the matrix of the camera system, that's definitely quite possible too. So I'm unsure if it's a full-bodied apparition or if it's just a sort of a kooky technical thing or a genuinely current ghost story, but it is a story. That's true. So it's cool, it's fun, and it's making the rounds. And apparently people in Colombia all have as many opinions as there are people about what's going on there, because it was on their mainstream news. So someone thought it was big enough of a deal. So that was number 7, which brings us to, this is so cool. This is number 8. Number 8 on our little journey here. The headline is Mystery Object Allegedly Forces Hawaiian Passenger Plane to Swerve. This is from July 9th, just about almost a little week or so more than a month ago. 2026, under the category of Aviation Mystery and UFO. Passenger Tammy Dixon says Mokulele, if I'm saying that correctly, Mokulele Airlines flight traveling from Mokulele toward Maui emerged from clouds near Okay, this is in Hawaii, and a plane flying around, and she saw an unidentified white object suddenly appear, prompting both pilots to react and the aircraft to swerve to the right. The strange part is the aftermath. Neither the FAA nor the NTSB could establish another aircraft in the area, and the flight reportedly disputed that a near miss had occurred at all, but all the passengers felt the plane swerve, and at least one person saw this white object suddenly appear that it seems like they had to swerve to drive around. Now, this is cool. It's maybe one of the better sort of UFO stories of recent days, even though it's pure hearsay from one person. I think it'd be a little better if everyone on the plane had seen the UFO, but this is not a gigantic plane either. It's a propeller plane, and I would say it holds maybe 20 people, 20 passengers, that is. Now, the idea is that anytime you have commercial aviation and a passenger who identifies himself, and then 2 pilots that seem to react to an unidentified object and alleged evasive maneuvers, then you kind of pair that with this airline denial 100% of the whole thing, which would be the easiest thing for them to do no matter what, then that just builds its own narrative, doesn't it? This is like, you could see a whole little like movie come out of this. and it's very interesting how the story just sort of unfolds on its own. It's cool. We don't have any photograph. We don't have any sort of evidence other than her testimony. So essentially, it's a short and sweet story. They saw something, they had to drive around it, and then the airlines denied it. So, not a lot to go on, but fun nonetheless. A fun little UFO story, which leads us to story number 9. Lost Amazon civilization may have been vastly bigger than anyone realized. This comes from July 2026, and the sources are archaeological and LiDAR research summarized by Unexplained Mysteries. And the categories are lost civilizations and archaeological mystery. So my abstract is new analysis of LiDAR evidence is adding to the picture of an Amazon that looked radically different before European contact. Researchers estimate that thousands upon thousands of earthworks may remain concealed beneath the rainforest, covering enormous areas and potentially representing societies numbering in the millions. There's buildings, there's constructions, there's pyramids, and it's all been overgrown by the jungle of the Amazon. So some estimates discussed in the new reporting put the number of structures as high as 20,000 across roughly 400,000 square kilometers, with ceremonial, political, and trade centers connected across the forest. So this is amazing. Every few years, archaeology discovers something new that fringe writers were mocked for saying for decades. Something like enormous sophisticated societies once existed in the Amazon. That was like fringe. And now they're using LiDAR and sort of this penetrating foliage radar that reveals huge buildings and structures and civilizations that have been covered up by the jungle, and now it's become conventional history, and it's crazy. It's considered, sparsely populated wilderness that was never anything one day, and then the next day, wow, there's vanished civilizations there. And then, of course, that leads into the inevitable, right away greed kicks in, and people are like, I bet there's gold in there, right? So, I don't know. Easier said than found, guaranteed. So we can distinguish these real discoveries from other lost civilization sort of ideas because we have reputed scientific evidence of these LiDAR returns. Amazing. So the article is on unexplainedmysteries.com. The title is Hidden Structures Hint at Huge Scale of Long Lost Amazon Civilization by T.K. Randall, July 30, 2026. So the Amazon rainforest might seem like an impenetrable tangle of trees, but in the past it was home to millions of people. Now, it's been long thought that it was always jungle or before that ocean, and that it was never sort of developed to the degree that it could house large populations, and that most of the people that live there are small groups that become very specialized to the area that they're in. And that's true, and it's been proven. But at the same time, it is possible, and it does seem like science has bared it out, that there was civilization there to a grand scale. The advent of LiDAR, so this is light detection and ranging technology. Researchers have helped researchers uncover thousands of interconnected earthworks spread across the Amazon, and it's thought that at its peak, this vast civilization could have been home to millions of people. 20,000 earthworks, over 400,000 square miles, deep trenches, embankments, buildings, structures that look like pyramids, roads, and homes, villages, just you name it, civilization, right? What other secrets might lie beneath the rainforest remains to be seen, because they haven't even canvassed the whole entire thing yet, or at least all the sort of dense vegetation. What they have looked at, it seems like they find something every time they look. So this is really cool. It's interesting. It just shows you once again that every time you think you've seen it all, or that we've explored even our own land masses on the earth, that we find something new. So this leads us to number 10. I saved the best for last, and this is tripod appears on Mars, but it wasn't there a minute earlier. This is newly highlighted information from August 2026. Brand new Mars anomaly space weirdness. All right, I've been talking for too long today. And anyway, Mars anomaly researcher Carrie Syverson recently highlighted a strange three-legged shaped object visible in an actual NASA Curiosity image. And according to the image comparison, this object isn't visible in a photograph of the same exact location taken approximately 1 minute earlier. And the proposed explanation that this might be the Ingenuity helicopter, so their little drone they have up there, that doesn't really work because at the time of this photograph, we know that the Ingenuity drone was thousands of miles away. This comes from NASA and JPL, the original Curiosity imagery, and Carrie Syverson reporting on unexplained mysteries, or being quoted on unexplained mysteries. Now, is this Martian machinery? Is it some other thing that NASA has up there that the public doesn't know about? I'm not sure. However, I looked at the photograph and it's pretty cool. It looks like, I don't know, you know what it really looks like to me? It looks like that Imperial probe droid. They say it looks like a jellyfish, but remember that from the original Star Wars when Han Solo's on Hoth and they see that thing and it's like, it's a good bet the Empire knows we're here. That drone, that's kind of what it looks like. It's got a bigger top and these gangly like legs that hang down, and it definitely looks like it's in the air. It's not on the ground. It's in the air right above, not necessarily the horizon, but above a little ridge that, it's impossible for me to guess the distance, but way less than quarter of a mile, I would say. I'm not sure, but close enough where you can see structure. And the cool thing about the photograph, though, is like it says in the article, it wasn't there because the rover took a picture and wasn't in the same frame in the same direction, and then a minute later it takes another picture and it's in that one. That's crazy. So I would encourage you to go into the Dark Intel files on Patreon and look at that photograph. It's an anomaly. I don't know what it is, and they're always finding weird things on Mars in the rover pictures, and then they just real quickly say, no, that was this, or no, that was that. This time they say, no, that was our little, they call it a helicopter. What's it called? The Ingenuity. That's a little drone they have up there. But that thing has sort of tracking on it, so you can see where it is, and it's time stamped, and it's, as far as I know, never been wrong, and apparently was thousands of miles. It was basically on the other side of the planet, doing its little reconnaissance from where the Curiosity rover was. And so that's not it. That's not what this object is. And it's really just, once again, another weird thing coming back in the photographs from Mars, of which there are a lot. We did a whole episode on Mars anomalies. Go back and check that one out. So this is going to wrap up our Unscripted From the Edge UFO sightings, new cryptids, and paranormal news, episode 139 for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for coming along and listening to all the crazy stories. A lot of cool things in there. What was your favorite? Leave me a comment in the comment section and let me know what you thought was cool, or what if there's anything in here that you want me to dig deeper into, and maybe we will. So thank you so much for exploring Unscripted From the Edge, UFO sightings, new cryptids, and paranormal news with me today. Be sure to subscribe or follow Renegade Files right now, wherever you're listening, so we can meet here again next time and explore the deepest stories of covert culture, UFOs, ghosts, hauntings, conspiracy theories, and all the weird stuff that we love so much. I am thrilled to have you in the Renegade Files crew. Also, be sure to get your bonus episodes and help this show keep going by becoming an RFA agent on Patreon. You can find that at therenegadefiles.com, or you can find it on patreon.com/renegadefiles. And thank you to the RFA agents who are there already. And if you are one, you have my gratitude. If you are not, jump in there. You can try it for free for a whole week. if you've ever thought about it, now's a great time to do it. There's tons of content, great photos, bonus episodes, and all the cool stuff I've made for you there you can check out for an entire week for free. So I'll see you in there. And until our next adventure, I'm your host, Lex Gordon. Stay wild, Mirage Child.